collecting your new rats is very exciting, and if you've done all your preparation, you should have everything ready, all your new equipment cleaned out and washed and dried, set up ready for your rats to move into. If you set your cage up a few days before you collect your rats, then I suggest you cover it with a clean duvet cover or a sheet just to keep the dust out. And don't put the food and water out until just before you collect your rats. You want it to be all nice and clean. Now I've got my two smallest rats here. They're the closest I've got to babies. I've got Ellie here and her sister Chloe. Now they're nearly 10 months old and they are quite tiny rats. They've always been very tiny, so they're going to help me out in a minute. So you need your travel carrier, as we talked about before. They come in various sizes. And you need to make sure that the travel carrier is clean as well. Some soft paper inside. It's all securely clipped on round the edges. And if your journey is under an hour, then one of these carriers is fine. You can't clip the water bottles onto these. Well, I haven't found one that can be clipped on it so far. But what we do is we put some pieces of cucumber into the bottom, which adds some water content for the rats on their journey. And you'd also need a few little treats. Now we don't feed rat treats or Cheerios or anything to our rats until they're 3 months old, because I've explained before about the health problems. And these are science selective rats, which the rats absolutely love, so we use those as a treat. And a couple of those are handy because when you need to put your rats into this carrier, there's this ledge round here where the rats get excited. They try and jump out, they put their noses and their fingers there, and so you need to distract them and get them to sit down, so you can use 2 hands to clip this part here behind here. And that's the job you need 2 hands for, and you need to make sure all your rats are safely sitting down so you don't injure them. Never rely on the little cardboard boxes that are given away by pet shops for transporting rats. They're not safe, they're not strong enough, and I've heard of rats escaping after 5 minutes in cardboard boxes. So cardboard boxes are useful to put the carrier in if it's a very cold day. If you're using cardboard boxes, make sure the bottom is very securely taped up, and you can place the whole carrier inside to the cardboard box, and you can cover that with a towel. Just put these side bits, don't seal the rats in, but you can put these side bits over, and you can just put a towel over the carrier, and as soon as you get into the car you can remove the towel and just leave the box in there. Also the small carrier, you can fit a tea towel over the top, or a small the hand towel if it's a thin hand towel, but a tea towel size is better. That will just keep the wind off or the rain. Now when you're carrying these, always put one hand underneath as well as holding the handles. Never swing your rats like this. They're going to wobble about, they get thrown about, and they will feel very sick. So always support the box, and as gently as you can and as smooth as you can. Keep the journey nice for your rats. If your journey is over an hour, then you can get small cages, travel cages, where you can clip a water bottle onto and a little plastic dish clips on with food in. You don't want any accessories that are loose, any hanging toys or any loose toys. All you need is some bedding in the bottom, so a nice pile of paper for the rats to sleep in, and the water and some dried food, and that's all you need to get your rats home. So before I just mention going to actually get your rats, I will just say a couple more things about transporting your rats so I don't forget in a minute. But you need to make sure in the car that you never put the rats in the boot, obviously, the fumes, that you don't sit them underneath the seats where cages could get caught up or get too hot. You don't want them near heaters, and you don't want a draft blowing in from the windows directly on them. You need to get the temperature at sort of in between, not too hot or not too cold. And to stop, don't put them in the direct sunlight. To stop that, you can use those little screens that people use for babies to stop them being direct sunlight. And never ever get your rats out on the journey home. However with your trains, buses, taxis, whatever, do not open the cage at all. Your rats will be fine in there, even if they're squeaking a bit, playing. Don't try and open the cage. You'll end up losing your rats. It'll be very traumatic. But keep them, if you're on public transport, then keep them on your knee. If you're in the car, you sit in the back seat and have them next to you, but hold the cage next to you, or hold the carrier next to you, and that's probably the best way to do it. I'm sure there might possibly be some sort of harness for strapping in the big travel cages, but I don't have one of those and I'm not really sure what's available, so it's something you'd have to have a little look at yourself. So you're all ready to go off and collect your rats. What do you need to think about when you get to the breeders or the pet shop? Well, the first thing is, a good breeder will not try and rush you, and she will answer your questions. They will give you advice. They'll let you handle the rats. They'll show you mum and possibly dad, so you can see the temperament. The rats will all be clean and well cared for. There won't be any sick rats. And you look at your actual rats. They shouldn't be scared of people. Now these two are wondering what they're doing in the baby cage, as they're no longer babies. They might be doing some little scratching, washing and cleaning, but they shouldn't be constantly scratching, because this is just normal cleaning here, little scratch. But if they're constantly scratching and their coats are not clean, or you can feel or see scabs on them, they probably have mites, which is going to need treating. The eyes, the nose and the ears should all be nice and clean, nice bright eyes. No reddish brown discharge around the nose or eyes. No sneezing or wheezing, because that could be a sign of an immune system disorder, and that's going to be costly because your rat will constantly need antibiotics. So if you are not happy with the conditions, don't be scared to walk away or say you need more time. And don't be scared to report anyone who is obviously not looking after the rats properly. Get help for the rats if you find some that are being kept in really bad conditions. Even if you report anonymously, you know, don't ever leave a rat and walk away and don't do anything. So hopefully, if the rats are not on the same food that you're feeding, then get a little bit to come home, and if you watch the video on feeding, you follow the instructions for mixing the foods together so that you wean them off of one food and onto the one that you want to use. So get your rats safely into your car or whatever transport you're using, get them safely home. And then when you get home, just pop them down somewhere away from other animals, just for a few minutes, just get your coat off, wash your hands, whatever you need to do. So you've got a few minutes to devote to your rats. And just give your rats a minute or two to settle, and then while you're talking to them, just carefully open the top of the cage. If you've got someone with you, and if there's more than 2 rats, they're just going to be jumping out everywhere, so it's helpful to have someone with you. Then open the top of the travel box and get them out one at a time. Now don't leave them with the lid just closed over, because I'll show you what can happen. If you leave the lid just closed over, the babies can flick this up and get their fingers caught. So it's best to have someone standing nearby just guarding. That would be the absolute ideal if you can do that. So you're going to transfer them carefully into the house. Now the important thing is, I always use the biggest door, especially with new rats. And I'm going to get a rat out in a minute and show you how to put them in safely into the house, because that's very important. So I'm just going to clip this back onto the tripod if I can do that. There we go. See if we can see the doors, because that's very important, otherwise it would be pointless me trying to do this for you. Now if you have tiny baby rats, which we don't have at the moment, so we have my granddaughter's little toy, which we've tried to adapt into like a little mini rat. You can scoop the rat up with one hand, put them onto your other hand so you're supporting them. And if you keep them sort of in your hands like that, then they can't really jump out. Then it's very easy to open the door and just put them into the cage, put them down somewhere low, make sure the tail's not sticking out, and then just put them down gently, then close the lid, go back and repeat that with the next rat. Now something, if your rats are a bit bigger, it is a bit more tricky. See if we can get one rat out here, because we don't want any escapees. Hello darling, up there, you go on my shoulder for a minute. We don't want little Chloe running away, do we? Little Chloe says she's going to go. Chloe. Right, let's put you back in quickly and we'll get Chloe. Now, little Chloe. So, with your bigger rats, you're always going to pick them up with two hands, one underneath and one supporting. But when you actually put them into the house, this is the important thing. Always hand in front of the head and lower them in carefully. Watch the tail, make sure the tail's in, make sure there's no feet clinging to the doors. When you pick your rats up, never ever pull them if they're clinging to the bars. You will have to wait for them to let go because you don't want to rip a nail off. So here's my little girl. So I pick her up in two hands. And you see this, there will always be rats hanging, always waiting. And we'll have, it's hard to do with a rat hanging from the bar because this is what it's going to be like for you. One in, one out. Hand in front of the head. Pick you up, one in, one out. This is what happens. So we have to get sneaky and we have to give a little treat. There we go. Now, as I said before, we don't give sugary treats till the rats are 3 months old, but they do love these science selective food which we give as a treat. So there we go. One more time. Hand in front, lower in, make sure every part of the rat is in, make sure there's no feet trapped anywhere along here. They're very, very good at putting their feet in. So that's your ratties in the cage, all home and settled. Now what I would do is leave them to explore. They will very soon get tired, they'll have a good drink, they'll find the food, they'll go to sleep, and when they wake up, and you'll probably be doing what I did and watching them while they're sleeping, taking lots of photos. I would start when they wake up by opening the top door or a big door of your house where the rats can't easily jump out, but you can just sit with your hand inside the cage and let the rats sniff your hand, talk gently to them, decide on some names for your rats, and I will register them with your vet, even if they're registered as rat 1 or 2. In an emergency, you need to contact a vet quickly. So register them with the vet, choose names, and I'll be back soon to talk about first playtime and getting to know your rats.